You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Podcast Network. Find all of our shows at wearelibertarians.com. You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog of Liberty podcast on the We Are Libertarians Network. I'm your host, Jeremiah Morrill, and as always, I'm joined by our co-host, Mr. Dakota Davis.
What is up, Jeremiah?
Man, we're in episode 74.
74, one away from 75. This is the third to last episode in the guest bedroom studio.
It's still awesome though. It's so slick in this very fairly small space.
It looks so much bigger on television.
It does.
Yeah, people watch and then they come in here and they go, "Oh dear God."
If this was my bedroom, I'd complain.
Well, you live the Fisher's lifestyle. Yeah, well, I mean, they haven't. This is the size of a closet in your neighborhood, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Brett Bittner's watching. Yes, that is Steve Horwitz. That's his voice. You guys remember him? Probably 30 episodes or so ago.
Yeah,
Steve was on the show.
Steve was first on episode 45.
So almost exactly 30.
Yeah.
There we go. I got to finish the read. Our show is about our lives in rural Indiana. It's a show about folks who are involved in politics, and we promise that our episodes are going to be a fun and an easy listen. We interview people who are influencers, elected officials, political experts, and folks we just find interesting. The interesting guy, I suppose, would be Chase Peyton over on my left, on the right of the camera. Hey, Chase.
What's up, man?
You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah. We once again, the fourth chair is a backup plan. We were hoping to have Chris Galt, the OG We Are Libertarians co-host, and we had to make a flying lead change. We say in the horse business, a flying lead change, switching from Thursday to Wednesday. It tossed out Galt on us, so we got Chase, who's always down to party.
I'm the backup. I don't have a life, so it works out.
You know who Wally Pipp was?
Don't.
Wally Pipp was the guy who
baseball guy,
baseball player that Lou Gehrig replaced when he began his Iron Man streak, right? So
There we go.
You're Lou Gehrig.
That's right.
Sweet.
Even I knew that,
Wally
Chase.
Pipp, yeah.
You got Wally Pipp.
I was going to say.
Wally Pipp. That's right.
So we were going to have Galt on, and the one of the topics we're going to talk about today with Steve. This is a teaser. Is we're going to talk about this notion of buying local versus buying at the big chains like Amazon or Walmart or somewhere, and trying to decide: are you supposed to support the mom and pop shop? Or are you supposed to go to the big timers?
I do love Walmart.
All right,
You love Walmart?
So there was this argument we got into. Galt is incredible, and if you're a We Are Libertarians listener, you know that he can argue to the wall for no particular reason. And
you just described every libertarian I know.
And God, we love him, but he had this ability to just be irritating as hell. And I'm like,
also every libertarian I know.
So we're going to teach you a lesson, Chris, and we're going to have a show. And we're going to bring in Steve, the Ball State economics professor, and he's going to explain. We didn't even know what your opinion was going to be on this, right? But we digging in, we're like, Steve's going to explain to you why you're wrong, and you're going to sit there and defend it. And now he's not here.
Did you hear that? Did you hear that little noise that Steve made?
All right.
My favorite kind of argument when the opponent doesn't show. So.
Victory! So I guess at this point we're probably supposed to talk about the show a little bit, Dakota. Patreon, we got people in there helping us out.
Of course,
as
we
always.
have the Patreon plug that just a big thank you always to the people who support us on Patreon. If you want to get in on that club, you get all kinds of bonus content. You get I'll send you some stickers and refrigerator magnets and maybe a poster in the mail. You get all kinds of goodies and really quality bonus content, I think.
First rate.
Yeah.
First rate.
So thank you, of course, to everybody who donates monthly, because that is what keeps the show going. That's what pays the bills and what's going to keep the lights on in the new studio. And of course, we are looking at other options to fund ourselves. So if you're a small business owner or a big business owner, then you can contact us, and we will get you set up with all kinds of opportunities.
So there's a survey. Dear Leader, Chris Spangle provides for us as always, and we're Libertarians is looking at commercialization opportunities. We're included as well. There's a survey, and we've been getting information and feedback back from the fans. So
yes,
we talked about that a little bit last week, and we got some reports and some information. Real quickly, what do we know about the people? What do they like? What do they hate? What's the problem with this show?
I can tell you one thing.
The reading of the complaints.
The biggest thing that I think that I learned from this is that no one cares about the quality of the website.
Nobody gives a damn.
No, nobody cares at all. Yeah. Nobody cares about what the website's like as long as they can click on the link and get to the audio. That's all they care about. But we had some really good likes, and we got a ton of feedback. I was very, very honored that the people took the time to do this because it was not a short survey.
No.
In the least.
No, I took it for We're Libertarians, and I'm a cast member, and I thought, oh my God, I'm going to quit 20% through.
I did one.
Yeah.
Did you?
Did you? Mm-hmm. I think that we know which dislike he had.
Need more Chase?
No, and it was was it the one where someone said that Jeremiah and Dakota need to make out?
That might have been me. And then I said that we needed more booze.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. You're drinking
right
on
here.
I was going to say, you guys are well stocked.
Yeah,
I don't know what the problem there is.
We give extra credit to politicians who come on the show and have a drink.
One of the dislikes was the name. Someone doesn't like the name.
That was probably me.
That was because and it says thanks, Chris Spangle. So was that you?
No, I didn't answer the survey on our own. That felt like it would be wrong.
It did seem weird.
Yeah.
Someone disliked windmills.
I will vote for myself in November, though.
Someone says dislikes windmills. So they just don't like windmills, apparently, all around.
I can't imagine that being a divisive issue.
Oh, man. So, yeah. Some of these were really good feedback. One of the biggest things that we heard was the number one dislike was nothing. So
there's nothing wrong with this. Chris Spangle says the name is not changing, or he will cancel the show. And he turned his boomer button on. It's all in caps. So he's very serious about it.
Ooh.
Very serious about it.
And that boomer button, I had not heard that. I just want to point out, my daughter probably will never listen to this, but I get all caps from her all the time, and she's 22. But she thinks it's funny. She's being ironic.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were protesters.
Boomer button. God, all right. I can leave now. I learned my fight.
We're the cutting edge over here. There's no doubt.
Yeah, Urban Dictionary has nothing on you guys.
They were protesting on Broad and Main today outside the county courthouse over wind or air today. People holding signs, yelling at the air.
I passed that on the way home.
Did you honk?
I did. It looked like a walking graveyard.
Oh God.
Old man yelling at clouds, right?
Yeah. So this goes into one of the complaints that we had about Chase.
Yeah.
It was actually
you had your own bucket of complaints.
Yeah. One of it was you demean the concerns of possible listeners.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You pulling on the Canadian accent.
Yeah, I was going to say.
That's a flashback to episode 45 with Steve Horwitz whenever we talked about the great Canadian Jordan Peterson.
Oh, we did. That's right.
Yeah, the YouTube commenters weren't crazy about that. I can tell you that.
Yeah, we got a lot of downvotes on our
no lobster man tonight.
He cost us so much.
The mob came after us. They claimed that I apparently hate Jordan Peterson, even though I spent money to go see him live.
Well, we all waste money on stuff.
That's right.
I accidentally paid for an extra hotel room in Florida that I didn't stay in because I forgot to cancel it. So, we all make mistakes. Sarah doesn't know that yet. Hi, Sarah. I made a mistake back on the honeymoon. We paid for a hotel room at the Intercontinental at Doral, but we didn't stay there. Demean listeners more, Chase. This is what made Abdul Hakim Shabazz. Spangle says that. So just pick on him. You'll be fine.
Yeah, there you go. You got it.
You have your own crazy Larry out there. Chase, Dakota and I hung out, what was it? Monday night football, 2 nights ago.
That's right.
How was Andrew?
Andrew looked terrible. He threw an interception, and it wasn't good. Dakota got to experience pro football in person, and he explained it to his bride.
I have been to multiple pro football games. I like watching them live. I just don't really get it. I don't really care about, the players doing this.
So you're not going to be in a fantasy league this year?
No.
Did
No.
you take a knee during the national anthem?
I did, yeah. Everybody, I got booed personally. I was told to get out. Love it or get out. Yeah.
That was fun. I mean, the stadium was half full, but I mean, your tax dollars pay for it, so at least you got to go in there and check it out.
That's right.
You pay an extra 1% in the food and beverage.
My favorite thing about going to Colts games or to Lucas Oil Stadium in general is seeing the beautiful construction of that place. It's amazing.
That roof cost an extra $100 million.
Did it?
Yeah.
Wow. That is incredible.
They're too wimpy to play outside.
Are there any current pro football teams that exclusively play outdoors?
Chicago Bears, the Green Bay Packers.
I'm not even going
I have
there.
no idea. I
That's
don't
two.
know.
Dakota has
That was
absolutely
an
no idea.
That was an honest question.
85% of the NFL plays outside.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Exclusively?
Cincinnati,
Well,
Nashville.
Exclusively, I mean, if
their
they're
home
on,
field.
Yeah, their home field is outside, right?
The only
Okay.
domes that are left are Houston, Indianapolis, Detroit.
Atlanta.
Atlanta just built another new one, I guess. St. Louis is gone. They don't have it. Minnesota built a new one.
Right. So,
And I think that's it. So
yeah,
5 or
even
6?
Green Bay, right?
Yeah, Green
Playing
Bay
outside.
outside. Yeah. Seattle used to have a dome. They got rid of it. The Rams were a dome team, and then they moved to Los Angeles, so they're outside. I don't know what the new stadium is going to be in Los Angeles or Las Vegas rather.
Yeah.
So anyway, breaking news: the county commissioners have passed the wind ordinance. So if you're watching this and weren't paying attention, they did pass the wind ordinance. So
Surprise!
there you go. Yeah. if you didn't read the paper and know that one was coming, you probably should have read it again.
One of the big things that I noticed during the Colts game, as I was sitting there watching it, were the amount of flags that were thrown for what seemed like minor things. Now, I've said it before, and I'll say it again during this episode, that I think that we should force our pro football players to take steroids. And then before the game, 2 days before the game, we don't allow it. So then they get rage. And you just go out there.
That'd be
and
awesome.
That is real entertainment. That's like 300 stuff with the gladiators.
I wrote Indianapolis. Two things about this. I did a program for the Institute for Humane Studies, Learn Liberty, using football and fantasy football to teach basic economic principles. So that I think that's available online still. I'll look maybe after, and you can see, you can link it up. But I also wrote an op-ed. I think it was in the Dallas Morning News, arguing half seriously, right, that if you really want to take the injuries out of football, take away the helmets.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah,
I like
it's,
that.
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's the Peltzman effect, we call it in economics. After the guy talked about seatbelts the same way. You wear a seatbelt, you drive more dangerously, right? Cause more accidents. Yeah. So if you could go back to rugby, right, and
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We always joke about NFL or race car drivers. When they get out of the car, if they're going to throw punches, they leave their helmets on, right?
Right.
They don't fight fight out there without them on. So let's talk about Steve a little bit. Background for those that don't remember from episode 45. You are the most heavily educated guest we've ever had. You have an MA, which is a Master of the Arts. I don't know.
Right. Yep.
And then a PhD, which means you're Dr. Steve Horwitz.
Yeah. PhD piled high and deep, right?
Yes. Economics from George Mason University. Of course, we all know them from the NCAA chase from basketball. They do well sometimes. Over in Virginia, named after the I suppose he was on the revolutionary side. And then Steve was a professor of economics at St. Lawrence University in St. Lawrence County, my homeland originally in New York State. And you became the associate dean of first year. Is that written right, Dakota? Or
Yes, that's written correctly.
That's real. It's not that he became the first associate dean in his first year, but it's the
of the first year.
Of the first year.
That's correct.
And now he's at Chirp University. He is now formerly known as the John H. Schnatter Distinguished Professor of Free Enterprise at Ball State. Your school was in the news recently, so as you said, you are now the Meat Lovers Distinguished Professor of Free Enterprise at Ball State University.
I wanted it all along. I wanted to be the Meat Lovers. We were just talking today about what'll happen. I mean, eventually I'll get a new name to go with my Distinguished Professor, but there was when I knew it was going to be Schnatter a couple of years ago or whatever, I got the job. I said, look, I got to be Meat Lovers with the double cheese Distinguished Professor, right? Something like that, right? Just no pineapple.
Pineapple on pizza is wrong.
That's wrong.
Yeah.
It's evil.
Yeah.
I love pineapple. on
Yeah,
pizza.
of course you do.
Do you really?
Occasionally, it's not like my main pizza, but every now and again.
So
interesting.
There was a vote last week, and this has been a bit of a story. Indiana, Ball State University is a state school in the state of Indiana, so there's a board of trustees, and some of them are politically appointed. So there was an original vote to not make any changes after some statements were made by Papa John himself. And the Indianapolis Colts and Ball State University chose to keep their association. And then I didn't follow the inner politics of it, but there was it was brought up a second time before the Board of Trustees this last week. And so they voted, I think, 8-1. And the one no vote was a Ball State graduate who was an appointee from Milroy, Indiana, Jean Ann Harcourt, who's a longtime Republican volunteer, has been big in Rush County politics for years and years and years, and runs Harcourt Industries. She was appointed by the governor at the time, who was Governor Pence, who's now the vice president. So as always, these political things just kind of dribble up. So there's an angle that now this is all the vice president's fault, that his person voted no.
I haven't heard that one. That's good. Everything's his fault. Well, yeah. I mean, you want to talk about this now? We can talk about this now.
We'll get into it.
I mean, the board reversed themselves, and it wasn't a surprise, really. After they were, so there's 4 schools that had Schnatter centers, right? Louisville, University of Kentucky, Purdue, where it was brand new, like March, brand new, and us. The 2 Kentucky schools immediately de-Schnattered, as I like to call it, dissociated with him right away after he made his comments, or used the word that we're not allowed to use, that you're not supposed to use. And they did right away. Purdue and Ball State didn't respond right away. And on the same day, Ball State said, we're sticking with him. Purdue said no. So it left Ball State as the only school who was sticking with him. That's a tough place to be. He's an alum, understandable. But the reaction was so strong, I think, both from alums in terms of saying, we're not giving you any more money, this is the wrong decision. And also on campus, too, the Black Student Association wrote a very, I thought, very well done and sort of thoughtful response to it about why this was a problem and what could be done about it. Other student groups were upset, and I suspect that the president all along thought the board made the wrong decision. I think the president would have liked the board to have gone with the other schools, but the board didn't. And I think the fact that they were sticking with Schnatter meant that anything having to do with diversity or race on campus just wasn't going to go anywhere productive, because all of those groups were just going to keep bringing up Schnatter. And I think the president recognized that. I suspect what happened is that the president put some very heavy pressure on the board to say, I can't do my job. I can't do the things that I was hired to do unless, with that name still hanging there. So they reversed themselves.
Why do you think that they made the decision to keep it at first?
I suspect that goes to Jeremiah's point. I suspect that the board is heavily Republican. I suspect they wanted to resist the sort of perception of political correctness and blah blah blah. I do think there was some people sincerely thought he apologized and that they could make it right and that he wanted to do right by Ball State. I think Schnatter, by the way, could have. I don't know if it would have saved the situation, but were I him, the moment that the board agreed to keep him, what I would have done is say, okay, what can I do to forward issues of diversity and inclusion on campus? For example, Ball State's building a new $4 million multicultural center. Not quite. $4 million isn't under the couch for Papa John, but $4 million is not a big deal. He could have said, I'll pay for half of it, right? I'll pay for all of it. The black students asked for more stuff on minority entrepreneurship, which, by the way, the Schnatter Institute has done and will keep doing. But even beyond that, Schnatter could have said, I'm going to come to campus and do some programs for students of color. I mean, there's things he could have done, right, immediately to say, look, I'm genuinely sorry. You misunderstood the context of what I said, whatever. Right? But he didn't do any of that. And I think in the absence of that, it was pretty easy to move.
Yeah, it was still in poor taste.
Yeah.
It didn't fix anything, and they knew that the battle was going to keep raging.
Yep.
And one important note that I think that I wanted to make during this was they didn't just drop the name; they also returned the donation.
Yep. So a couple things. This is where it gets interesting and tricky. So yes, they returned his money. It turns out that the money. No, they returned his money. Well, they did. They took the name off, including off of my off my job, right? Which I'll note, by the way, I found out by watching the live stream at the Muncie paper website, right? No one called me to say we're going to do this. So I didn't, and I heard this the same.
Well, it would have been collusion if it would have been corrupt if they had told you ahead of time because we can't do that. It's a public meeting.
Put that aside. Yeah. So the good news here is that, the funds that support the work that I'm doing in the economics department with my colleague Todd Nesbitt come directly from the Koch Foundation. They were not Schnatter's money. So the fact that that the university is returning his money affects my work absolutely not at all. And my salary and research money and all that stuff.
Your work is still safe. It's just that they can sell you to the highest bidder.
Right. Well, right. So I got no name on my chair now, right? I go find someone to fund it, right, and get their name on it. If you want the Jeremiah Morel, you can.
The Boss Hog of Liberty distinguished professor.
There you go. Now we're talking.
That's also,
I wanted the F.A. Hayek professor, but the Boss Hog Liberty.
We don't have the millions that Schnatter did.
Yeah,
whatever.
So the good news is that all that stuff.
John Wayne used to say he used to work for $20 a day, and he used to work for $5 a day. Yeah. And if there's not a $20 offer, maybe it's $5 to get it.
Yeah. It's good. The work will continue that we're doing, and I suspect it will grow.
So while we're on the college topic and controversies, I'm going to make a little change here in our show note order here because we have a special guest that we're going to line up, and it's Purdue University. They got themselves in the news with all the students have gone back to school. I assume freshmen reported this week or next week at Ball State.
We started class on Monday of this week.
You're already in.
Yeah.
So we're going to have Mason Rottinghaus on, or whatever, however you say his
name.
Rottinghaus.
Yes.
He's a Tri alum, Henry County guy, and he's a first-year student at Purdue. And we're going to play with the sound
Hello.
here. Mason.
Yeah.
All right, Jeremiah Morel, Boss Hog of Liberty show. You are on live with Jeremiah, Dakota, and Chase, and Steve Horwitz of Ball State University, the professor, and we're just introducing your segment here, talking about you being a first-year student at Purdue, and you went to something called Gold Rush. Is that right?
Yeah, it's called Boiler Gold Rush. It's like a freshman orientation week.
So, what kind of things happen at this event?
Throughout the week, they just have, sessions. You learn about the school. You learn where your classes are. They get you to communicate with new incoming freshmen. And, it's honestly a great program.
So, do you have to go through Gold Rush, or there were all kinds of different stories going around as the presentation is mandatory, and some people saying that it was a voluntary thing to go to.
Oh, absolutely not. As a freshman, you get the choice to come to Boiler Gold Rush. You move in a week early. We moved in last Monday. Throughout the week, they had events. You got to, like I said, learn the campus, and not even the things that they put on were, they weren't required. You didn't have to go if you didn't want to. So they had things lined up. They promoted everything, and you could choose to go if you wanted.
So this event that made the news is a portion of that, and I guess it was a comedy act. A guy named Andy Gross who performed. Are you a big stand-up comedy guy? You enjoy that stuff?
Oh, absolutely.
So, what was it advertised as, and what did you experience? What was your scene? Was it funny?
Personally, from my standpoint, if I'm going to have a comedian come on stage, I'm not there to. I'm there to laugh and things. And he was advertised as a comedian, ventriloquist, and a magician.
Okay.
So, the trifecta.
And he is all three.
So in the show, it had audience participation, and they asked a young lady to come on. I assume she's a student, one of your cohorts, and she came on stage.
Yep.
And the bit was she was going to guess a card, and he was going to draw it, and there's video of it. I saw a portion of it on YouTube, but I don't think I saw the whole thing because I watched it and I thought, man, that can't all be all that had happened, or else this would be a nothing burger.
Yeah, exactly. So on the news, if you watch the video, they show you a video, and it shows, and even in the articles, it says he failed at that trick, and it made him just look like a complete dumbass. And the news just made it look 10 times worse than what it was. And like you said in your little summary, it said, are students too thin-skinned, or was he in the wrong? And personally, he's a Las Vegas performer. You know, that means he's in front of adults consistently. He's not with families. He was contracted as a comedian. At this age group, you know, you've got kids at all maturity levels.
Are you've been sent to Purdue University? Does that mean that you're considered an adult now? Are you a child or an adult, Mason?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's that is the question, right? I mean, that's part of what I think is at stake here. I mean, I'll just say the interesting thing to me, this is, first of all, presumably the young woman volunteered to go up on stage, right? Nobody dragged her on stage, correct?
So what happened was he went through the crowd. He said, "I need a volunteer." He came down off the stage, and he walked around the first row, and he told this girl to put her hand up. She put her hand up, and he walks back up on stage, you know, just as a joke, and he goes, "Oh, I need a volunteer." And then, she was already raising her hand because he told her to put it up, and he goes, "Oh, you look good." And she came up there.
Right. So
she was also...
it was pretty funny when he did that.
Yeah, and this is, as you said, right, this guy's a professional comedian, and this is what you would do at a Vegas show or something like that. I've seen, you know, if you've ever been to any kind of Vegas show.
Exactly. And the things, now, he's done this act for years, the same act, you know, and it's just what's got him as a Vegas headliner, obviously. And it's not even like he did anything awful. Mm-hmm. People are, you know, they're pushing it, and they're like, "Oh, he sexually harassed this girl," and it just isn't what happened. I mean, the timing was awful. It was awful. We had this presentation before it, and it was about free zone, which is a way of saying, "Oh, we accept everybody. We don't discriminate. There's no sexual assault, no sexual harassment, things like this." And the timing was awful.
Oh my gosh! So his agent is probably going to get screamed at.
Yeah, I had not heard that piece of it, which is interesting. And look, those programs are really good. I used to help run the orientation program at my prior school. So look, stuff like that's really good. But you're right. Certainly in that context, whatever he did is going to look a lot worse than perceived as a lot worse. Yeah.
But what do you expect from a comedian? I mean,
exactly.
Had they never listened to this guy before they signed him?
The administrators who did, possibly not.
That's the bad part of Purdue's side, because, you know, they have this student orientation committee. They put this whole thing on. It was a group of 5 or 6 or 7 maybe students, and they put this whole thing on over supervisors and then team leaders. Team leaders at the lowest level being in charge of their groups, supervisors are in charge of the team leaders, and, you know, the SOC over everybody. And you think they'd look, especially as this big as a university period, you think they'd look into a comedian. As soon as I see comedian, red flag, I'm going to look, oh, is it an appropriate comedian? You know, you think they look into their background, say, is it appropriate for who we're showing it to?
So, also, one other thing, back to Steve's point of maybe they hadn't listened to it, Andy Gross is actually in the middle of a college campus tour. So he's going across the country going to these different orientations, so it's not like this was the first one. His agent probably set this up and made the first contact.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
Yeah, so, right, and the other... so it's really interesting that it was right after the presentation on sexual assault and all that. That helps explain why the overreaction. But everything I've heard, right? Nobody touched anybody's genitals. People made. He made jokes, but nobody touched. And she wasn't forced in any meaningful sense of the word forced to do anything. This is right. So if we think, the interesting question for me is compare this. I don't know if you guys have followed this case at NYU with the famous feminist philosopher who has been accused of sexually harassing one of her male graduate students.
Yeah, I think I saw the headline.
Yeah. So right, but what's interesting about all of these, what real harassment involves power relationships, right? That's ultimately what it's about, and I just don't see that here. This is a comedian doing an act. He didn't do anything, in my view, crosses the line. I mean, it's, you can say it was in perhaps poor taste, but that's what comedians do.
Comedians fail all the time.
Right,
That's not
right. And he didn't, and in some sense he didn't fail. If you've seen him do the trick.
This joke is designed to fail because he's supposed to get the wrong card,
Right.
and then the punchline of this thing was, well, at least I got a free feel out of it.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's not even the thing, though. He intentionally made it look like he failed.
Yep.
He said, oh, at least I got a free feel out of it. That was the punchline of the joke. And then he finished the trick, and her card popped out of that deck that was drawn onto the paper.
Yep.
So what happened after this happened?
punchline.
Was it a thing that went on Twitter and people started working out, or was there immediate booing, or what was the crowd reaction at the moment?
I as soon as she came off stage, two of the members of the SOC, the Student Orientation Committee, walked over to her, and I could see up there, because I wasn't so far away, I saw up there they were talking to her like something was wrong. Then I saw a few of the team supervisors walk out of Elliott Hall of Music, and I was like, something's wrong. And I just waited for it, and nothing else like that even happened. So we get through, halfway through, he comes out in the audience to do another trick, and he's asking for volunteers. And he walks up to a girl, and he says, stand up, and she refused, wouldn't do anything. And he said, fine, be like that, like just messing around. And then she stood up and tried to rip the microphone from his hand, and he just pulled it away and kept walking and went to another one. Then this girl, he asked another one, and she wouldn't stand up. So at this time, I knew they're protesting whatever his act is going to be. I knew something was wrong, and they've been contacted by one of the SOC members, and in the end, I found out they were. So we were sitting there waiting. He finally got a volunteer because the girl just got up and volunteered, and the trick wasn't even bad. It was just a normal magic trick. And he turned like a tissue rose into a real rose, and he went back up on stage. Later on in the show, he was labeled as a ventriloquist. At no point in the time did he bring a puppet. He brought one out, and it didn't come. It was good, but he had a dog, and he blew up a balloon and then made the dog fly off his hand. He just threw it off. It was done. But then he was like, man, I don't have a puppet. So he got another volunteer, and he knew something was up too. So another girl didn't step foot on the stage. He started calling guys. So he gets up there and he goes, well, there's one condition, usually when you're a ventriloquist, the dummy sits on the lap, the ventriloquist's lap. And it just, he's sitting there, he's waiting, he doesn't do it, he starts backing up, and then he makes he says, back that shit up. That's what he says. So he likes to sit down on him. And, it's like everyone, that's when the majority of the people walked out. They all took offense. People were yelling, dropping the bomb at him, in the crowd, booing him. And then everyone got off stage, out of the place, not even everybody. And it said in the news, we were instructed to leave. Not once were we instructed to leave. And it said the music was played over his performance. And not once did that happen.
So did he actually call himself the Matt Lauer of magic?
Yeah, he did. He did.
It's a joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what's it been like? Is it died down, or do you have news crews out there talking to everybody? You obviously got the Boss Hog of Liberty, which is a big deal in your hometown. But
I haven't seen one. Everybody's talking about it over here. I'm just like, in this day, I'm only 19 years old, and it's like, people are always worrying about stepping on each other's toes. And that's what that was. Everyone just gets butthurt anymore.
Well, and the thing is, a part of it too, right, is that people have, especially again, coming on the heels of that presentation, sometimes have difficulty recognizing context, right? This is not the context of, say, a boss, Harvey Weinstein, right, harassing actresses who he has power over and who he can get. This is a very, very different context. Even if you think the physical behavior was a problem and it's not clear it was, but even if you think it is, right, again, it's in a really, really different context of someone essentially volunteering to come up on stage and be part of this. If you get up on stage at a live performance anywhere, you better be prepared that something you're going to get embarrassed, right? You're going to get embarrassed. Yeah, you're part of the show. That's right.
And just what you guys have seen and many people have seen in the video. She places her hand. He doesn't take her hand once, touches her once, takes her hand and puts it on his leg. Well, she does, or herself. She didn't have to.
Well, Mason, thank you very much for
Hey,
joining
Mason,
us, man.
Mason, I got a couple questions for you before you leave. I have a cousin thinking about going to Purdue. How good is the food there?
Well, personally, I just came back from the dining court before you guys called.
Nice. What'd you have?
I had a nice, sloppy joe and some chicken, some cookies, chocolate cake and icing.
1 out of 10.
No, wait a minute. You were an athlete at Tri, were you not?
Oh, yeah, that's different here.
Yeah. So apparently you're giving up on that dream now, and you're just working on the freshman 15 in the first month.
Yeah, freshman 15 or freshman 30. It depends on how it fits.
What like we say is, when the marginal cost of food is 0, right? You're just going to keep going.
From 1 to 10,
Exactly.
how good is the food?
Depends on the dining court.
Okay.
You got them picked out?
Overall, I'd give this place 7 out of 10 on the food.
Nice,
Ooh,
nice.
Huh.
That for a college man, it could be pretty scary sometimes.
Okay.
Last question. This is a big one for my cousin. How hot are the women?
He says after we just do this whole segment about.
I kind of walked into one on that. I walked in expecting something a little more than the card I've been dealt. So,
1 to 10.
It's probably about a 5. It's not. If you're looking for not an education, you might want to go to like IU.
Yeah, that's where my wife went. She's very hot, so I would say IU for sure.
All right.
So yeah, they're a little different here. I think they're more focused on an education here.
All right. Thanks, Mason.
Thank you very much, Mason. Congratulations on your academic achievements. You're going to be the next great pharmacist out of Tri-High University. I don't know how it's happened, but there's this pipeline of pharmacists out of Tri to Purdue.
And find some time to take some economics. There's really good econ profs there.
There you go.
I am in a micro-econ class right now. I'm actually double majoring.
Excellent.
With another major in business management. So.
Good.
If people want to follow you, you got anything to promote, Mason? You're on the show. You want to Instagram follows? You got anything cool?
Oh, absolutely. Follow me. My handle's ROTT442 on Instagram. Then my Twitter's ROTT4402 on Twitter.
Awesome, man. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. It's we're proud of you, and we're excited to watch how things go and spread the word about the Boss Hog up in West Lafayette.
Oh, absolutely will do.
All right, man. Good talking.
All right, thanks.
Rex Bell's in the chat, and he said he sat behind a bunch of guys waving dildos at the Libertarian National Convention in New Orleans. How could he possibly be offended?
Yeah, so I watched some of this guy's act real quick before we move on. I watched some of it on YouTube. I like not even just that specific act, just his other stuff that he'd done. I had a better show at Zany's in Chicago this weekend than anything he puts on. So I'm thinking that some of the outrage and the walkout is people were just getting tired of it.
Well, that was new information. I had not heard that they'd just gone through sexual harassment training, and then you send this guy out there. So they're all like, see something, say something, and here it is.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly
and
right.
The poor guy was set up to fail.
Right, I mean, understandable in one sense, even if it's part of this whole. We've seen all these other comedians say how they won't play college campuses anymore for just this sort of reason. But yeah, this to have him do that act right after that presentation. Not surprisingly, they're gonna read the thing differently than you might.
You have to wonder if that didn't cross his mind beforehand. Like, maybe I should.
You also have to know whether he even knew the schedule, right?
Oh, yeah,
know if
that's
he
true.
even knew that, right? So that's
you parachute in and
right, exactly.
Yeah, you don't know what you're getting into.
I mean, he's like you said, he's on the road doing all these shows. You just pop in, do your show, pop out, right? What do you know? But yeah, it's been
this theme, and between the Papa John story and then this thing at Purdue, and now Bob Lamey, the guy who's been the voice of the Indianapolis Colts for 32 of the 35 years he's been in Indiana, and he used a word apparently that's been reported in that media. It's percolating out, and you're getting different reports and getting the full story. It is it's a time of change.
Yeah.
And the language that you're allowed to use and the things you say and the settings you say them in, it's we are very reactionary as a society.
Yeah, and sometimes with justification, right? I mean, you can't say the word Schnatter said, even in a context where you're not calling someone that, and expect to not have consequences. You just can't. The word is too toxic. Other kinds of things like the Purdue thing we're talking about here, right, are more complicated. But even there, and understandably, in some sense, in the world of Me Too, you can see why people would overreact. I think this sounds to me like it was an overreaction, but you can understand it, and it's that the pendulum will start to swing back. I think at some point we'll hopefully get to a more reasonable place. But the danger, of course, is that one of the dangers of making big deals out of nothing is that then everything starts to be nothing. And we don't want to be there either, right? I mean, we really do want to put the Harvey Weinsteins in jail. We want that to happen, right? But if everyone starts believing, it's all, politically correct left-wing nonsense, right, that's not good either. So I think it's important for us to be careful and look at the details like we've just been having that conversation and figure out exactly what's going on.
We will continue this conversation. We'll announce now that next Thursday we're going to have a stand-up comedian on the show.
Yeah.
Magically. This is literally the way it worked out. We plan our stuff months in advance, it seems like. But Chris Bowers, the stand-up comic who owned Morty's Comedy Club, and you've heard him on Bob and Tom, Bowers is going to be joining us Thursday next week. So that'll be a really interesting conversation to hear, what's the culture like in stand-up comedy and what you can say and what you can get away with. And, he had a club and operated it moderately successfully for a few years, and it's gone now. And,
tragically.
We loved Morty's. We really enjoyed going to Morty's. So, but we're going to talk to Bowers and talk about what stand-up comedy has in the future and what you're allowed to do and this dance you do with language, because that's a part of the act or the skill in comedy, is you go to listen to those shows to dance on the edge and to have some fun, and man, it could be a career ender.
Yep.
It's
knowing where the edge is the problem. My daughter is a comedy writer and performer, and I know that as a woman in particular, right, you're struggling with that. You're struggling with trying to make your way in what's still a male dominated profession. So it's a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, so now
let's
ready
get
for
into the main topic,
the main fillet,
the meat.
You're going to upset any of the vegans that listen to the show. We go that way.
It's all right. Protest me. I dare you.
As long as it's locally sourced, organic, grass-fed Koger beef.
I don't think Koger beef is grass-fed.
They eat in the field. They have some grain too, but they eat grass.
All right, well, but they're not 100%.
Exclusively. So we had this conversation. We talked about this a minute ago. We kind of teased it. Chris Galt was going to be here, and we accidentally got Chase instead. Thank you, Chase.
My bad.
We Are Libertarians just printed some T-shirts up about a month ago. And Chris Spangle did the same thing that we've done on this show, where we have a special event. We have some T-shirts that are available for purchase, limited run. You order your shirts, and then they get direct shipped to you, $20-25 a piece. The show gets a cut. We do well. You guys get your merchandise. Everybody's happy. Those are done through some .com website. Galt said, you are a terrible person. You should have found a local supplier and ordered 200 T-shirts or 300 T-shirts and paid for the T-shirts and mailed them out and shipped them, and you would have made more money, and you would have supported a local business.
That was his biggest thing, was supporting the local business owners. Because somehow, Steve, in our society, there's this entrenched idea that if you buy from Walmart or from Amazon instead of buying at your local boutique or whatever, somehow you do not have the moral high ground. Comparatively to the other people. And so that was the whole argument that we started having with Galt, and it was like, and the crazy thing is that one of the other co-hosts on We Are Libertarians works
there.
Yeah, works for the company.
.com. Yeah. But it doesn't matter because it's not a locally owned business. And we hear people say that all the time. This is a little bit of a sidetrack, but we don't want these global corporations coming into our community, right? But Boar's Head has hundreds of jobs in our town, but they're not owned here. Their headquarters isn't here.
One Walmart Supercenter, 400 to 500 jobs.
Yes.
So what should be happening? How should we be looking at this, Steve?
Well, I noticed I was looking at the show notes. I wrote a piece on this a while back for Fee somewhere. I'll dig it up for you guys. But so a couple of things to think about. When there's the, you know, the, 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 I think the problem with this is people want to grab the moral high ground for shop locally. And what I would say in response, you don't get the high ground. It's not that it's wrong to shop locally or that it's automatically better to buy from Amazon or Walmart or whatever. There's trade-offs all over the place. I just think to say one is clearly better or more morally right than the other, that's the problem. So just as a couple of kind of responses to the usual arguments you hear, the claim that it's more environmentally responsible to buy locally, consider a couple of things. If you go to Walmart or Target, you can buy everything in one trip, right? That's the cool part. You go to Costco, you get a living room set and a bunch of salmon, right? I mean, it's okay. You make one trip.
And the grill to cook it on.
And you make one trip instead of multiple trips, right, to all kinds of different places all over the place. Even if you order from Amazon, you order multiple things, it comes in one of those white Amazon vans, shows up at your door, right? So there's plenty of environmental savings that way. And it's not like, the giant truck that it's being shipped from wherever, right, is not – the fact that there's one more package on it doesn't make that much of a difference. Yeah. In fact, there's some studies that show it's even cheaper to send stuff long distance. There's food mile studies that look at this too. So that's not going – that I think is not really good. The environmental argument is not going to fly. I think the other thing to think about is it's usually the case that the Walmarts and Amazons are cheaper. And if you're buying some things there's a group that's going to jump in immediately and say they're cheaper because it's on the back of the labor that they pay low labor and they beat up on their suppliers. We'll come back to that in a minute. But assuming for the moment it's cheaper, right? That's savings that local people have that they can now have more money to spend also on other local stuff. Years ago when I was living in New York State, you'll recognize this story right away. I was living in Canton, and they were going to build a Walmart supercenter up in Potsdam. And so I was asked by the local Republican committee or whatever to be on a panel presentation to defend Walmart, which I was happy to do. And it was great, by the way. The crowd was about 3-1 pro Walmart, right? My favorite moment was the one of the women on the anti-Walmart side was a local preacher. And she got up and said how she tells her parishioners all the time, right, that they should keep small footprint, consume little and locally, and be anti-consumer and all that. So I got up at my next turn. I said, look, that's great, and you're welcome to tell your parishioners that. But the moment you try to put that into law, I have real First Amendment concerns here, right? And the audience loved that, right? I came home, I told my ex-wife, I said, well, if the house gets hit by lightning, now you know why, because I had to take down the preacher woman tonight.
Yeah, so I found your article on Fee, and it is titled Economic Localism is No Better Than Economic Nationalism. Yeah. And the thing, so I started reading the first paragraph. Okay, listener, the thing that I love most about reading Steve's work is his wonderful vocabulary. And I love your use of language. And so like the first sentence is, as Black Friday has continued to expand in recent years, one response to its orgy of discounts and deals has been to promote the following day. Yeah, so I love that.
Right. Well, thanks. So I think, and I think that's so for me that's the part of the issue here is that these, like Walmart and all these the big box stores, Amazon's a little more complicated. But they offer opportunities, both work opportunities and in small towns like in St. Lawrence County, right? One woman got up at this presentation. I have two teenagers got up and said, "We need jobs," right? But one woman got up and she kind of says, "Look at me. I can't go into the boutique stores in Potsdam or Canton and find anything that fits me. The only place I can go to find stuff that fits me is Walmart." Right? And then other people, one woman said, I don't want to have to drive 25 miles to Ogdensburg to get diapers when I could be able to get them here, 5 minutes away. So
St. Lawrence County, New York is one of the it is the largest county in the state of New York.
Geographically, yeah.
And it's one of the smallest populations. So it's if you picture our area, it's basically like a 9-county area in Indiana with lots of small towns and hamlets.
And it's also fairly poor. It's in the bottom 25% income-wise. And so, these folks are saying, hey, we need jobs, we need cheaper goods, right? And this was maybe 10 years ago. Not as many people had internet access, and Amazon wasn't quite Amazon yet. And so the idea of it was easy for the wealthier people to say, oh, we don't want Walmart because it'll spoil, the pristine countryside, when they had internet connections, could shop that way, or they traveled a lot. Like my family's in Detroit, so we would go to Detroit every once in a while. We'd get some stuff that we couldn't find locally. But if you don't have those financially, you don't have those opportunities. Having a place like Walmart, right, is great. So, and the other thing to remember about these, it's not like the people they hire drive in from 500 miles away. These are your friends and neighbors they're hiring. They are local businesses. That's the part that's 450 jobs that are going to people in your community. I'm going to stay with Walmart because I know Walmart the best. They also give back, right? They sponsor all kinds of, Little League baseball teams and all kinds of stuff like that. They're really involved in the community. So sort of to argue somehow that the only people making money out of this, right, are sort of far off whomever's. Also remember, who owns Walmart stock? Lots of institutional investors. That's your retirement program, right? So, so again, the notion that somehow these organizations, the Walmarts and the Amazons, don't have a local component to them. Oh, and I know the one other thing I want to say, back to Jeremiah's point from earlier. Okay, so Walmart a few years ago came out in support of raising the minimum wage. Now, why would Walmart do that? It's relevant to this sort of they don't pay their workers enough. The reason is that Walmart pays their workers more than the mom and pop stores do, right? And so they want to raise the minimum wage because it'll hammer the mom and pop stores. So one of the things to keep in mind here, if you want to argue, well, Walmart keeps their prices low because they don't pay their workers very much. Actually, they pay more than the mom and pop stores do. That's why they want to see the minimum wage go up. So, and again, if you're living in these towns, as I did for 27 years, right, finding employment opportunities for young people is really tough. When you get Walmart in there, suddenly you got something.
Well, and the consumer benefits from having the store there.
Yeah.
Rushville, the next city south of us here, about 20 miles south of Newcastle, where our studios are, they had a small. They didn't have one of the supercenter Walmarts. They had a small Walmart, and it closed earlier this year. Now the people of the city are disappointed and mad that the products they would buy at Walmart they can't get, so they have to drive to Newcastle or Greensburg to Shelbyville to get those products.
Yep.
Yeah. So whenever I was writing the show notes, I gave us a list of all of the top arguments that came from a paper that is titled Indie Impact Study Series, a national comparative survey with the American Booksellers Association on.
Yeah.
So this is where it's all come from. My favorite point that they made was point number 2. In this paper, which is you conserve your tax dollars. And the argument that they made was somewhere along the line of shopping in a local business district.
You save your tax dollars?
Yeah, it says that if you shop local, then you're not driving as far, so therefore
less wear and tear.
Yeah, less wear and tear on the infrastructure. And I thought, how ridiculous is that? Do you know how much money in taxes the Walmart down the road is paying?
Right. And again, go back to the Amazon argument. All right, you want to be more efficient use of the roadways. Put everything in one truck instead of 40 people taking their own cars.
Steve, that's not even going to be an issue in 10 years. We're just going to have drones doing it.
Well, that's even better. Right. Even better. Yeah. So, I mean, look, all of this said, this doesn't mean it's a bad idea to shop locally, right? It's perfectly fine. In fact, I'll just tell you a quick story up in Fishers, right? When we moved up there, I was looking for, hardware store type stuff. And one of the interesting things about where we are, we're like on 131st in Allisonville. There's no Lowe's or Home Depot that's really close, right? It's 15 minutes to the nearest one, which is not terrible, right? But it's not like around the corner. And so I thought this is weird. Then I realized there's a small little do-it center on Allisonville Road and 116th.
Yep.
5 minutes away.
Local hardware shop.
Yeah. 5 minutes away. And I went there one time. I was like, actually, I said, this place is really nice. It's bigger than I thought. It reminds me of the little ones in St. Lawrence County, right? But it's bigger, physically bigger. They got great plants, and the staff is really nice. And it's 5 minutes from the house, right? And now they are a little more expensive than Lowe's or Home Depot, but I'm happy to shop there and keep that place in business because even though they're a little more expensive, the service is great. We bought a grill there and some other stuff, and so they're really, really good. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? We all have to make that.
I'm thrilled to have in my situation. I live on the south side of Newcastle, and about 4 years ago, Gilman's opened up a Do It Best Center in Newcastle. It's the only lumber yard we have in town, and it keeps you having to drive 30 miles to the next town to go get lumber or countertops or paint, high quality paint. So it's great to have. The thing that I think a lot of us lose sight of is that if there's a product that you're going to buy at a local store and it's going to cost you 2 times what it would cost to buy it online. It means that you're not going to be able to buy another product locally that you would have.
Exactly.
So if I'm looking at yard signs for my campaign, all right, I'm running for county council. Jeremiah Morrill for the Henry County Council.
You are?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't know.
Great opportunity to vote for freedom. Anyway, the shameless plugs. You're welcome. I'm looking at yard signs. Yeah. So if I'm going to look at a local vendor and they're going to charge me $500 for yard signs, or I can go online and buy them for $200, it means that I can spend $300 more that I've raised on something else, and I may be able to select a local vendor, and then they get that work still gets done,
right?
And the campaign benefits and even more product are sold.
Right. And I want to note, and this is I think a point that's in the fee article that Dakota pulled up. This is the exact same logic with international trade, right? That when if I buy Chinese-made TV cheaper, I've got money left over in my pocket to buy perhaps U.S.-made stuff that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to buy if I bought it. So again, right? I mean,
which raises our standard of living.
Right. Yeah.
Everybody's standard of living got better because now I have 2 of something.
Right. And let's note, by the way,
you're richer. You're richer.
And the Chinese got better off too, right? I mean, the fact that I bought the Chinese-made TV means there's a bunch of Chinese workers who are doing better than they were too. And arguably, they need it more than we do, but that's
right. Like the iPencil.
Yeah.
In the fee article, you did write about that. And
I forgot we were going to talk about iT-shirt with Chris.
Yeah.
We were going to.
Yeah.
He was going to go totally locally sourced, and we're going to make him grow his own cotton.
Yeah.
And dye his own wool, or, get his own dyes and do everything locally. He's going to do everything locally.
You brought up Ben Powell's book called Out of Poverty, Sweatshops in the Global Economy. I've read a little bit. You've written about this before.
By the way, Ben will be one of our speakers in the spring.
Really?
At Ball State. So that's just a little plug for that.
Are you still putting all of your lectures online?
All of my class lectures?
Yeah.
Yeah, the same ones. I'm teaching online again this semester. Mostly because I still don't have an immune system, or at least I don't have a complete immune system.
Didn't make us wear the SARS masks.
No, I didn't even check if you guys were healthy. But this is interesting. If you get a stem cell transplant, if anyone of you happen to get a stem cell transplant, one of the things to know is that it wipes out your immune system, and so you get your white blood cells and all that back, but you have to go through your childhood immunizations again.
Really?
I got nothing, right? I lose all. It is like wiping, like reformatting a hard drive. You lose everything.
So you get your MMR, your polio,
well, not yet, right? That's the thing. Not till 6 months. So December, I get all that stuff. And you lose all your cold immunities too, right? You're completely.
So everything you've had, you're subject to again.
Yeah, I'm subject to again. Exactly. Which is the whole. I mean, that's the treatment, right? You want to. It's my immune system is the problem. So doing this,
we've rebooted it.
Yes, exactly. In fact, my Facebook profile when I was having it done was all jokes related, sort of computer images of rebooting or wiping. Did
you try turning it on?
Yeah, right.
Turning it back on again.
No, because that's when they get the paddles out. We didn't want that. But anyway, yeah. So I'm teaching online again because. It's silly to expose myself
to. Students are dirty.
Right. They're germy, disgusting 18 to 22-years.
And back to the point about the immune system really quick. I saw your post this week about the vaccines. And I thought about it before. Kind of, but not really.
There's
in
adults
that
running around out there without immune systems that you need.
Oh, that's true. This is your chance to anti-vax. You can just not take them,
right? Or scream at everyone else who isn't. But yeah, so
God, I hope Steve doesn't get autism.
Well, that ended Dakota's career.
Yeah, it did. Where were we? Oh, yes, we were. So I'm teaching online again. So all those videos that they're still on YouTube. All the videos that were up are still there. Yeah. So
cool.
So you can find those. That's for my intro class.
Yeah, I'm glad to see him again.
Chase, do you feel like you just got a first-rate econ explanation? Do you have any questions from the third row?
He's looking at porn over there.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah. I'll be honest, guys.
He's looking at porn. I'm telling you.
I am trying to get my fantasy league together.
All right. Well, it's middle-aged guy porn, right?
It is really hard to get 12 guys to agree on one night for a draft.
I haven't even tried. Yet. I haven't reset our league, my league that I'm trying to get Chase into.
I've never done. I did that whole thing on fantasy football, right, for IHS, but I've never played. I've never actually been in a league, and I think one of the reasons I don't want to do it is it will make me over invested in the NFL. right? That I'm going to care too much about what happens every week.
Yeah,
remember,
you don't wanna
I
support-
grew up in Detroit. I'm a Lions fan, so I have problems here to begin with.
You're going to love Golden Tate in the third round.
Right. And so, it's bad enough I have to turn on and watch the Lions,
Well, and you don't want
extended
to
mediocrity.
overly support those god dang flag kneeling.
Well, there's right. All those commie NFL players.
I'm waiting for the Fee article that says "Love my country or get out."
Yeah, no, not happening.
Not going to happen.
Not gonna
What do you
happen.
think of this? What do you think of this last point that came from that study that said that local business owners donate to the community at twice the rate of corporations?
I honestly don't know what they were measuring and whether that's true. So it's certainly possible.
Neither do I. They didn't cite
So
anything.
but the one thing I would say is, look, you can donate to the community, right? You can donate your time and resource and those. But the other thing you can do for the community is to create jobs and offer low prices and so on, right? It's not. This is part of that moral high ground, right? To sort of claim that the charitable stuff is what we count as working for the community, and we don't count the sort of economic benefits that come from sort of the normal profit-seeking activity of firms. That's the problem. And I think, again, this goes to a sort of deeper philosophical issue where we tend to overly credit people's intentions, right? Oh, well, clearly if you're donating and you're being charitable, right, we can understand that you are trying to intentionally do this good thing, whereas Walmart is trying to maximize return to its shareholders or whatever, it's seeking profits. The fact that unintentionally does all these good things, we don't count as much morally. And I think it's an interesting question whether that's what we should do, right? I mean, what is it? What do the intentions matter?
That was the perfect answer. That's exactly what I was hoping you would say.
Oh, there you go. That's why you guys are paying me the big bucks to be on the show. My free water.
Yeah, that's right.
Wait till you
I'm
see
sorry
the new
it's
studio.
not.
You're gonna. We have a money tree we're having installed.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Can
it's
I get
not
one of those
Perrier.
helmets with 2 beer things on it?
I only had one Perrier left in the refrigerator, so and that one's for me tomorrow.
Okay, well, all right.
We're starting to work on decorations. If people are listening and watching and want to start decorating the new studio, I had Danya Lester is leaving. She's retiring as the from Purdue University in the Ag College. She's been their alumni group leader for 20 years. So she's got a whole office full of stuff. So she's going to be a guest next month. It'll be for her first post collegiate. She can speak freely and tell us what she really thinks. But unlike Steve, who just does it anyway.
Yeah.
But
I got tenure.
She's fine. She's bringing us a Bobby Knight poster where he was wearing the Purdue colors.
It's
So
like
we're gonna
life
hang
size
that.
too.
Wow.
It's
It's
huge.
going to be.
And
It's
you
like
need a little
it's big
chirp.
fat
You need
head.
some chirp swag.
Hey, hook us up, man.
Let me see what I can do.
Well,
You got any old Papa John stuff you want to put on the wall?
He didn't tell you she's leaving. She decided to leave Purdue because of Andy Gross.
Between Gross and Schnatter, right? I mean,
Yeah,
It's just too much.
time to get out.
Just too much.
Hashtag gross is gross. That was the hashtag trending on Twitter.
Yep.
Have you ever generated a hashtag? Have everybody protested you enough to create a hashtag in anger?
No, but I will. When I was at St. Lawrence in the late '90s, when the sort of anti-WTO and anti-free trade stuff in Seattle and all that was happening, there was a faculty member in the sociology department who had sort of whipped his students into an anti-free trade frenzy. And I had just moved from the econ department over to my associate dean job, and the secretary from econ calls me one morning. She says, "You need to come over here right now." And I go over there, and these guys had these students had chained the doors to the econ building. They had put crosses out on the lawn for all the people that free trade had killed, and drew like chalk coffins on the ground. And they were passing literature out, and I walked by one says. Someone says to me, like, "Do you know what gets taught in these econ classes?" Not knowing, right? And I'm like, "Yes, I do." Do you? It's not clear, right? Because the Watertown TV station was out, so it was a
WTTY?
WNNY. Yeah, WNNY.
You said all of the people that free trade has killed?
Yeah, because capitalism. We know capitalism kills people, right?
It's evil.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So
Never
so it
mind
was-
mind the 110 million
Right.
people that have died from
It's communism
centrally
and
controlled economy.
Yeah, we don't count them.
Has anybody talked to you or asked you about this trade war we've started in agriculture and what it's doing to our soybean farmers? We had some bean guys in here a couple months ago.
I haven't done any local media or anything on it. I've seen some clips of Indiana farmers being pretty upset, right? and getting
killed
by it.
As we've raised these tariffs on steel and aluminum, that's the right hook we've sent, and the retaliation has been on soybeans, which has caused pricing to drop. So these guys, soybeans are an annual thing, right? So you sold your crop last year, and now you've got pricing locked in this year. So they just know something's coming, but you haven't sold anything yet.
Yeah, no, and this is the image of the trade war, right? Is the gun that backfires in your own face, right? That you think you're shooting someone else, but you're ultimately shooting yourself.
Yeah, it's the old Elmer Fudd
That's
shotgun. Backwards.
Right. Exactly. Did you see this John Oliver clip that's been going around too from a couple nights ago? I guess it was, where he did this whole. It was the HBO thing on.
He did one on HSAs that I just watched.
But this was
401ks. I haven't seen one on trade yet.
This on trade. It was great.
It wasn't. It wasn't misinformed. He was actually correct.
In fact, he was correct.
It's been a minute since he's been right on one.
So. Yeah, no, he was correct.
Probably since
very correct. I mean, to the point where several of my colleagues said even with the adult language, they were going to use it in class. Right? So,
really?
Yeah, it's about 20-minute clip actually. Yeah. So,
normally his stuff's on YouTube. We'll have to look for that.
Yeah, it's out there. That's where I saw it. Yeah, so look for it. It's very good.
His work on his video on civil asset forfeiture was fantastic.
Yeah, he was good on that one.
Right, and it's this is something really interesting. If two things are interesting about this, one, people on the left all of a sudden becoming free traders because Trump.
So right? As libertarians, we never have real huge power. So we get to be the people that beat the same drum over and over and over again.
Right.
And then the big D's and the big R's, when they're in power, they're here. And then I'm holding my hands out left and right. And then we're going to swap. They trade. As soon as you lose majority, you swap. So, now Democrats are against bombing people, but they're for free trade.
Right. And I'm glad to have them with me on the free trade side. I'm not sure how long they're going to stay there. Right. So that's really interesting. And the other interesting thing here is, this is the kind of thing libertarians need to be better at, right? Having someone like this who can be funny and incisive and put something like this together and
that's
make
Chase.
it work.
You just described Chase.
Well,
really?
Yeah,
that's
yes.
He's still trying to find a draft night over there.
He's
I think
not
we've
even
settled on Wednesday.
He's not
Wednesday.
even a member of the local Libertarian Party.
They ask for a fee, man. I like free stuff.
There's no such thing as a free lunch.
It's $25 a year, man. Okay, so we were talking a minute ago about civil asset forfeiture, and in the group chat, whenever we were planning this, is from the Cato Institute, Indiana came in number 3 of overall personal freedom
in the United States or the 50 states. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know how they mapped that out?
It's a really
they've got a lot of factors that put into this.
Very
thing.
precise. I mean, the weights are down to like 0.01% of the total, right? And it's got a lot of stuff in it. And personal freedom's like 34% or something of that. So
they're looking at regulations, personal freedom, economic freedom, lawsuits, land policies, marriage, education, fiscal,
marijuana policy. I mean, everything, right? And so
victimless crimes, health insurance, all kinds
be honest,
of stuff.
I was surprised to see Indiana number 3.
I was
not surprised to see New York number 50. Not at all. I was surprised to see number 3 because economic in the recent Economic Freedom of the World Index, when I looked at the states, Indiana I think was number 9, and I wrote my colleague Todd Nesbitt and I did an op-ed about that in the monthly paper. So on economic, you're number 9, but you don't think of Indiana as a place that's high in personal freedom.
No.
No.
Well, we got those Sunday sales now.
Well, yeah, right. Well, but that counted for something, right? Some of the relaxation of alcohol
because we're up by 1 rank since the last time they did it.
And so they looked at a broad range of things. If you're going to count gun laws, Indiana's gun laws are pretty good, right? So some the stuff that they included in there actually, I was like, all right, that makes sense.
We have more casinos than we've ever had.
Yes, that was another one they had in there too. And now Caesar's Palace, by the way, has bought out.
They bought the Racinos.
Hoosier
We convinced ourselves that we are the most. We take a long time to get there. We're not like Churchill said about the Americans. They eventually we get to the right thing. We convinced ourselves that it's okay to have racetracks, horse racing, and then we said it's okay if the horse racing tracks have video poker.
Right.
But God forbid we have any table dealers. We can't have that yet. And then we said we can have a casino as long as it floats, and the casino has to float down the river. And then we said, well, as long as it's floating, we can go ahead and just keep it to the dock.
Right.
And then we had a landlocked area that said in Orange County that said, we really want a casino. So they built a moat. So they put a boat in a moat, and we could have a casino in Orange County at West Baden.
Yeah.
And then finally we said, to hell with it. We can just go ahead and build casinos wherever we want to.
So I'm a big blackjack player, right? And so when Hoosiers, 25 minutes up the road from me in Fishers, right? So one time my wife was out of town. I said, all right, I'm going to go up and play. And I have to say it was one of the most disappointing casino experiences of my life. Mostly because the blackjack's all video. There's a person, but you're playing these video machines, right?
Yep.
And so back to our earlier topic. Look, part of why I go to play blackjack is I like hanging at a table with people who are enjoying themselves. That's the community aspect, right? I don't even care if if I lose a little money, I lose a little money. I'm having fun. And I don't want to get it was just so depressing, right? Like losing money felt awful because you're not even having the enjoyment, right, out of the camaraderie that comes with actually having a dealer.
Yeah, that's what people who
Dakota's experience in the casino last year for our state convention, our libertarian convention.
Well, that was with actual people. It just became awkward for me because I was getting ready to get married in a single income household, so I wasn't trying to spend a lot of money.
Yep.
And I was playing next to a man who was betting with $100 chips.
Yep. Yep.
And I was like, I feel super uncomfortable because now I feel bad that I've lost $50 and he's betting hundreds. But yeah, I think that going back to the Indiana being number 3, I think that right to work
that's another
helped us.
Yeah, that's another big one too. Yep.
Yeah,
and again, as they point out in that study, right, from a regulatory perspective, we are pretty good, right? There's a couple things they point to where we could be better, but another one that issue they raised, Indiana has not raised the state minimum wage, right, above the federal level. So that's a biggie, right? So and great educational options like so K-12 vouchers and credits and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and
so these things count, right?
So many people don't understand how those things have an effect on personal freedom. Like because of the Fight for 15 that's going on right now, we have the whole every single person in the United States now is against Betsy DeVos and her voucher program. So now all of that's screwed up for us. Yeah. And no one looks past the now this videos on Facebook, right? So that's really put the screws to our whole political type discussions. But one question that came in from a listener, Stephen, he was asking. Actually, I'll just read you his question. He says, "Please ask the economists about how trails, sidewalks, and bikeability affect a community."
First of all, Stephen, he has a name. It's Steve. You should know that.
Easy to remember.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question. So I just in where we live in Fishers, just finished this bike trail that runs essentially from Connor Prairie right down 131st, then down Lantern Road, and then kind of goes right into the municipal complex where like the library and all that stuff is. And already now that it's done, there's people out there biking and walking, and I think those are good amenities to have, right? And I think one of the things libertarians perhaps don't talk enough about, even if you're inclined to be an anarchist libertarian, it seems to me anything that reduces the size of government down to the most local level possible is a good thing.
Yep.
So it's much, it's harder, I think, for libertarians to complain as much about local government stuff. Often it's done better. Not always. Often it's done better, but you have the ability to move, right? I mean, if I'm pissed at Fishers, right, I can move, no, not to Carmel, no. But
you can go to Westfield.
Westfield or Noblesville, all right, that's okay. Never Carmel. Just a quick story on this because I'm talking about this. Fishers has a great farmers market, by the way. If you've never been on Saturday morning, great farmers market. Carmel has one too. The difference is that Carmel's farmers market actually has a rule that says you may not bring dogs to the farmers market.
Yep, I've been to Carmel's farmers
market.
Market.
Right. That's why I go, is to go hang out with the dogs. I mean, the food's nice and everything, but go hang out with the dogs. And it's just such a nice difference between Carmel and Fishers. Like
Insider information, Jesse Riddle actually runs the Carmel Farmers Market, apparently, with his hatred for dogs and children.
Yeah. Well, okay, there you go then. So, but that kind of stuff, right? I think to our, what's his name again? Oh yeah,
Stephen.
Yeah, Stephen. Yes. I think it's a good question, right? And those things, I think they matter. And those are ways that if local communities want to attract people, right? what do you need? You need good schools. You need safety, right? And you need those sort of basic amenities, right? Do the streets have huge potholes? No? Good. Are the schools good? Yeah. Can you get down to the library? Yeah. That's all you need. You don't need these big sort of, development plans and all this kind of stuff. People will come if you have the basics.
Here in our community, we've seen some very nice improvements happening. One of our we've got like 5 elementary schools in the Newcastle School Corporation, and they've been putting in sidewalks in front of the Riley Elementary School, the one in my neighborhood, and our literally Main Street, the North-South Street, and then Riley Road is one of our main east-west arteries through town. They're finally installing sidewalks there, and it's a great thing. Those are being installed now. I wish they went another 500 feet south to my neighborhood, but eventually they'll get there. But it's a big deal, and it does make a community more walkable. Right. So they've done a lot of work to try to make bike paths happen and walking. Yeah. It helps with the with accessibility and when you livability.
Think, again, even as libertarians from a sort of tax perspective, whatever, these are not expensive things in the big picture. Better that than you're throwing subsidy money at all kinds of corporations who are going to not do anything productive. Right? Those aren't going to bring permanent jobs. Those aren't going to bring residents in. Right? I mean, and even with the schools point, it's not necessarily that you have to think in terms of public schools. If you have a locality that, and if the state allows for some flexibility for charter schools and so on, right? Let the localities open it up as much as possible. It's about school quality. It's not about necessarily whether it's public or private.
So the city here has, Aaron Dickon, friend of the show, has been talking about trash. This has been like his issue. They had a trash ordinance. There was this thing about, are we going to pick up large trash? When's it get done? He and the mayor have been having this discussion. And now they're saying, okay, we've got a large trash ordinance in place, but now every time the city runs its own trash company, basically. Yeah. They have their trucks and they run their schedule. So if you live in the city, you pay $12 a month and the city picks up your trash and takes care of it. So you're on their schedule. And now they have a program. Well, we're not charging enough money, and we can't replace trash bins. And if the lid gets messed up, they've got this list, and you're stuck on this list for years, and you can't get new things. And you're supposed
shocking
to be able,
that the city,
right?
Yeah,
you're supposed to be able to get a free second toter, but they've run out of toters.
Imagine what nationalized health care would look like.
So Aaron is trying to solve this problem as local governments do. He's having conversations and saying, hey, if we take the fee from $12 to $15, and we have a dedicated fee to replace these things, will that solve the problem? And I'm talking to Aaron, and I've been talking to him all week about it. I said, I have private trash service. So where I live 5 doors down from city limits. So I don't pay the city for my trash. They don't offer it where I live. I pay whatever I pay, $19 a month or something.
It goes to the same landfill.
And it goes to the same landfill. It's directly with the landfill contractor, and I could choose from 3 different groups to do it.
Yep.
And I say, if something happens to my trash bin lid, because their truck literally dropped the trash can today, the lid popped off. It's the second time it's happened. I called them. They send somebody out, and then within a week, my trash can lid is replaced and my bin works again.
And meanwhile,
if I live in the city,
I have been waiting for
a
a year and a half. I've been waiting 18 months since I submitted a request for 2 new trash toters.
So Hamilton County has multiple trash providers, right? So when we moved to Fishers, I contracted with one, not Republic, who is evil, but a different one, and then found out, like a couple weeks later, and I did not know this, we have a homeowners association, that the HOA has a contract for the whole association.
Oh, so you've got to go with them.
With one company, but not the one I went with, right? But here's the interesting part. So I called the one I went with, and I charged the whole year ahead of time because it was cheaper, right? And I called them up and explained what happened. Refund like that. Not even a question, right? We'll refund it. Let us know if you don't get it, blah. So again, the competition there, even though the HOA mandates that we go with the one, but the HOA could change that contract, right? So it's still, it's not that if they mess up, there's still exit options. But the competition, man, it's good.
So I'm challenging the city, saying, why do you even have to offer trash service?
Yeah.
What if you sold the trucks and you said, hey, you guys, we'll say we have a rule, everybody has to have trash service. We made it, you have to have health care, right? Yeah. Pick any trash service you want. I don't care which one you have, but you pick any one of the 3, and then you get better service.
Yeah.
Better prices, even better service.
It's a TNH sweeper.
It's big and big garbage.
Yeah. This has been Trash Talk with Dakota and Chase and Jer. Kirsten says that she asked for a trash toter in 2010, and she's still waiting.
Right, yeah.
She's buying a new house
So
instead. It's just easier to buy a new house.
Just imagine what nationalized health
Me
care
too.
would look like, right?
That's why I'm moving. Is it's easier to buy a new house?
Well, the reality is government has really good intentions. They want to make it work, but they can't react well. They can't just change their prices if they want to. And you have it's bureaucracy. So even if the best of intentions, it doesn't work well.
It's because it is designed to move slowly. It's supposed to move slowly, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing that government moves slowly because we obviously
we'd be in bigger trouble if it moved
exactly.
quickly. Yeah.
So it's not that it's Aaron Dickens' fault because he communicates.
It really is.
Yeah.
Aaron's fault.
Right,
Well,
but
of course.
it is right. But this is an important point, right? And especially in these debates we're seeing now about democratic socialism and all that, right? I just had a piece out today on Cato's website, libertarianism.org, on this. But these problems are not because people are evil. They're not because it's not that every democratic socialist is, Stalin behind the mask or something, right? But that these systems have structural failures in them that even with the best of intentions can't do the things that people want them to do.
Right.
And those are problems that aren't problems that can be solved by getting better people or getting more ethical people or whatever.
Exactly.
Well, we're at that point where it's getting to be past Steve's bedtime.
No joke. I got to drive an hour home, so
he's got a cruise. So I guess we'll start final thoughts. Steve, you have anything to plug? You want anybody to read any articles? Follow you on social media?
I will plug that one again. Libertarianism.org. I just had this piece out on democratic socialism. It came out today, so you can take a look at that. That's a Cato Institute project. Sometime soon, I think now maybe the very end of 2018, I have a big project with Cato on Austrian economics that has a series of video lectures and audio lectures and a sort of short ebook that will be out from them soon. Other things to plug, the institute formerly known as, we will be beginning our lecture series on September 12th, Wednesday, September 12th, with a guy named Chris Supernaw, who's a philosophy professor actually at University of New Orleans. We'll be talking about.
Is he related to Doug Supernaw, the country music artist?
I do not know.
Probably not.
Probably not. Chris will be talking about incarceration, mass incarceration, and talking about some of the reasons why we have it in the United States and what we can do about it. So that should be good. And as we have more speakers coming, we will get that word out. And folks the best place to follow me is on Facebook. I'm right at 5,000 friends, but you can always follow me. You can follow my public figure page as well. It doesn't get updated as often. And as you guys know from my Facebook page, what is it? It's a 5,000 person economics seminar in a bar with really good food, lots of good classic rock on.
You're a huge Rush fan,
I'm
right?
a huge Rush fan.
Rush.
Yeah. So we got and really, really good beer. So come on down and join the party. If you have not friended me on Facebook, and you do, send me a message that says you heard me on Boss Hog, and I will try to move you to the front of the line. There you go. There's a line. This is part of the perks for Patreon, right?
Go.
If you pay for support through Patreon, you get to top of the line for Horwitz's friend requests.
Every time I listen to Rush, I think of Bubbles from Trailer Park Boys.
And you should.
Yeah. So have you had any other issues with the Uncoke My Campus people?
It's been quiet on campus. It'd be interesting to see whether the Schnatter Palooza reinvigorates them.
That's what I was interested in.
The group of kids, I think, who were most active in that a couple years ago graduated. So it was fairly quiet last year. There was a little bit about this time of year last year. Then it got quiet, and it's been quiet. I mean, the national organization poked a little fun at us for being stuck with the Schnatter name in that sort of window where we were stuck with it. But now they can't do that anymore. So I don't know.
It's at Ball State. It's called the
Progressive Student Alliance.
Yeah.
Was the group, and ironically they meet in our building, by the way, too, in the business building, which is kind of funny. But they've been very quiet, and they have their own thing going on and their own issues that they're interested in. So we haven't heard much from them. I'm sure that they will be rallying around what's her name, Cortez in New York, and the Democratic Socialist stuff and all that. Maybe though those, maybe that's not radical enough for them. I'm not sure. But it's been quiet, and I suspect it will stay quiet. And one of the interesting things that in the sort of wake of the Schnatter stuff is that we're trying to get a meeting with the Black Student Association and really sort of see what we can do to find out where our missions overlap and see how we can work with
I had
them. So
I had
that'll
a
help.
conversation
We'd love to hear
with
about that.
Yeah.
I had a conversation with a member of the Progressive Student Alliance there, and I ended up I asked him something about Bernie's Medicare for All, and just having a friendly conversation, and he told me Bernie Sanders is not left enough.
Yeah, no, so they're out there. That group is out there, and that's thankfully it's probably why they don't get much done. But too many meetings. But yeah, they've been quiet, which is good. I mean, from our perspective, we're doing really good work with students, and we want to be able to keep doing it.
Awesome.
But if they want to, I'm happy to talk with them. I've offered to sit down, have coffee with them. My treat, not even Coke money out of my own pocket. No takers.
Not even Coke money. There we go.
Chase, what's up in your world, man?
Well,
he's trying to decide whether to draft Luck or not.
You're running for something coming up pretty soon.
The Henry
aren't you?
County Council, yes.
Well, I want the voters to know a little bit more about you.
Uh-oh.
Here, this is where the campaign ended, right here.
I have some serious questions.
All right.
You've been married for a while now. What is your favorite part about your wife?
Favorite part about my wife?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he means body part. I think he means something else.
What is your favorite part about being married to your wife?
I really enjoy the partnership. I do. Like that's been the best part. Is I'm not going it alone anymore, Chase. You're someday you'll get to find this out too or feel it, but it's like you're not on the you're not at the circus on the rope all by yourself. You've got a teammate, and that's been really cool.
It's not a one person trapeze act anymore.
Somebody
right?
else is letting the dog out
fine,
sometimes.
yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I could have been that person. All right.
It's legal in Indiana now.
Yeah,
right?
unless you teach at a Catholic school.
What's your least favorite part about being married to your wife?
Man, okay. Truth time, Chase. Truth time. I used to have a king size bed all to myself, and now I have to start in the middle of the bed just to give a little so that I can have a tiny bit at the end.
Yep.
That's the and man, it's toasty.
So before
it's very warm.
Audrey and I got married, it was me and Daisy, my German Shepherd that lived here, and we shared the bed. And Daisy would sleep in the bed like a human. So she would crawl up and she would put her head on the pillow.
That's great.
And now it's like if Audrey leaves for a weekend, like with her mom and her sister going somewhere, Daisy knows, and she hops up in the bed
back.
like immediately. It's like before I even get to bed, she's in the spot already.
When I was living in New York, we had a little 9-pound Yorkie, and my ex-wife, and my daughter had bought it when they told me, but they bought it when I was out of town, right? So I come home after 3 days or whatever. The dog's been in the house for a while, right? And I walk in the door, and the dog's like, rah, 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 rah. I'm like, no. And then I go upstairs to bed. The dog's on the bed, right? And I go to get in bed. Dog's rah, 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 rah. So no, I don't think you understand the relationship here. This is not yours, and you don't get to bark me at 9 pounds out of the bed.
Yeah.
No, that's just not happening.
That leads me into my next question. If you had to choose between getting rid of all the dogs in the world or bacon, which one would you choose?
Oh, that is such a great question.
Man.
Oh, that is such a great question.
I like my bacon.
Yeah, but
all of the dogs.
all of the dogs.
I mean,
No,
I
this
would
is
sacrifice my dogs. Right? I would get rid of
No,
mine.
I mean everybody. You would
No,
have
no,
to
but there would be
individually
no
kill
more
every
dogs
dog
anymore.
in the world.
Yeah, no, we like what
would take
Thanos
years.
just make them disappear. Right? No, I'd keep the dogs and get rid of bacon.
Yeah,
I would too.
I would too. But now I would be selfless enough to get rid of my dogs to save bacon for everybody else. I would do that.
Is that selfless?
Sorry, Garth.
That sounds
and Riley.
heartless.
No, that's selfless. But I would have to let bacon go to save all of the dogs.
That is an outstanding question. My adult daughter will appreciate that. I'm going to text her that question this evening because I know what she's going to. She'll be pissed off. But she will get rid of bacon. It's my prediction.
All right. For your fantasy draft,
Yes.
do you go with a running back first or a wide receiver?
Oh wow! Now you've not played in my league yet.
Mm-hmm.
My Yahoo league, we get point per
Yahoo.
Point per completion.
He's 60.
Whatever. I played in the Yahoo League for 15 years. I've been playing in the Yahoo League.
At least it's not an AOL league.
We are like a point scoring machine in that league. So I would take a quarterback. I typically try to take a quarterback first round.
Really?
Yeah. And then running backs are important. Yeah, we go quarterback, then we go running back,
points
and then
per completion, right?
Yeah.
Versus touchdowns, right?
Yeah,
sure.
it's huge. And then we get if you get 400, 500-yard games, you get extra points there as well.
Yeah.
So a good quarterback is an 80, 90 point game guy, and 300 or 400 points a week will win. So in the Yahoo League I'm in, if you get yourself back in the day, Peyton Manning or a Tom Brady or an Eric,
take Stafford this year.
Breeze, one of those guys that are going to get you 4 or 5 touchdown game and 500 yards, 400 yards. Yeah. All day long in the first round. Okay. And then I come back and get in 2 or 3 good running backs because we're point per rush, point per completion, point per catch. And then we go with the we also look for special teams players. You got the full breakdown, Steve. But kick returns, punt returns, and kick return yards are big as well.
And in ones that go by that put more emphasis on scoring, presumably you want the run. That's when you want the running back.
Yeah.
See what you did?
See, there's more. there's less good running backs out there. There's way more wide receivers, so I usually go running back first. But I've never done a point per completion, so that changes the game completely.
Oh, it's huge. Quarterbacks are very big. And if your guy gets hurt, you've got to make the decision. There's only 32 teams. If there's 12 guys in a league and everybody's holding on to 2 quarterbacks, or if there's 14 in the league, that's even worse. And then everybody's got 2 quarterbacks. If you lose a dude, you've got like 3 or 4 quarterbacks to choose from. You're taking the guy off the Browns or the Jets or the Redskins.
Oh boy!
And then you got to hope he starts.
All right.
And so it's a high risk.
One more question.
Yep.
What do you think the Colts' record will be this year?
Think or pray for? They look good against Seattle first game, terrible against Baltimore.
Both.
I would absolute
3-8.
Ceiling. No, it has to add up to 16, Dakota.
Oh.
Absolute ceiling. Best case scenario, great season. It's an 11-5 team. 11-5, everything goes great.
Not a chance.
I think we're probably headed towards 8-8, and if things are bad, it's a 6-10 team. But I think they're 8-8, 9-7. Okay. I think we're somewhere in there because I think Andrew Luck is that good.
So you're saying they win that many games, even if Andrew Luck gets hurt.
If Luck gets hurt or goes out, they're a 5 or 6 win team with Brissett and the new offense.
Okay.
But I really think that starting with Andrew Luck, you're 7 or 8, and it could, if everything goes right, you're an 11-win team. I think they can make the playoffs. I think they can be a 5 or 6 seed. That's it.
You guys
are you taking bets on that, man?
No, no, we're not putting money on it. But they've got a really good nucleus. They got a lot of guys that are going to need a little bit of time, but they had 4 or 5 second-round draft picks.
Yeah,
and you've still got T.Y. Hilton. You've got Andrew Luck who's coming back. You've got the Frank Reich offense. That defense is going to get better with time. They're going to run the cover 2, and they've got speed. They're building speed.
I think you're a year away from being good.
Yeah, we thought that in 2011 or 2012.
Yeah,
and hell, they won the division, and we beat Kansas City in the playoffs. So who knows? That's why it's fun. That's why we play the game.
Gotcha.
Anything else?
That's all I got.
All right.
Man, dogs versus bacon. I'm still working on that.
Yeah, that was a good one.
My $1 million question.
It's great.
Yeah.
And you can fry them both at the State Fair.
All right, my final thoughts. Of course, I want to thank the Patreon people sticking with us through thick and thin. And as we get into the new studio, you guys are going to be paying for it. I appreciate you very much.
You're welcome.
You're not a Patreon, dude. I do want to say I do want to say really quick though that I really firmly believe that not just the people in Henry County, but the people across the state really need to pay attention to who they are going to be voting for in the November election. There has been a lot going on in the world of politics right now. There's a lot being said, and I firmly believe that in Henry County we have a great lineup for people who are going to be the best people possible to serve on the council to help get our budget situation back in order. Just like Clay Morgan said that we need, Chad Malaco gave Jeremiah a great endorsement, and I think that
Chad endorsed me. Wow.
I said Clay Morgan mentioned Chad and you.
Yes.
Yeah, he endorsed both of you guys.
He just got in trouble.
No. Clay endorsed both of you guys.
Although, Chad, you can, if you want to endorse me.
Yeah, there we go. But I think that it's really important. And the same goes with Mark Rutherford, who is running for Secretary of State. I 100% with all my being believe that Mark Rutherford is the most qualified candidate for Secretary of State in the state
He's going to
of
legally
Indiana.
be allowed to finish his term if he wins.
Who's running against him?
We have, well, of course, we have the Republican and Democrat. What's the Republican's name that's not going to be able to finish her term?
It's the lady that replaced Charlie White.
I can't remember her name
Big
for the life of me.
fan of her.
Are you?
Yeah,
You're a Republican, huh?
she's my favorite. I paid the fee for
Interesting.
that.
Jim Harper's a Democrat.
Because I'm a winner.
I know Jim Harper's a Democrat because I know that he got an endorsement today that wasn't in our favor.
Connie Lawson is the current.
Connie Lawson, she's a current Secretary of State, and she's not
right
going
at,
to be able to.
She's right at 8 years, and she'll be she'll blow right by it. Because the guy before her wound up in jail. Charlie White, who's also a host on the Indiana Talks Network, where he's our cohort. He's on Indiana Talks, and so are we. But Charlie did a little prison time after some trouble he got into in Hamilton County and got tossed out.
Yeah,
Was,
Mark Rutherford is absolutely the best choice that we have for Secretary of State, because if you vote for the Republican, you are not voting for the person or the candidate. You are voting for the Republicans to be able to pick who the Secretary of State is next. And that is not right at all. And so, yeah, I firmly believe that at least three of these guys for county level races, or four, I guess. Tom Furkenhoff for Congress. You have Mark Rutherford for Secretary of State, Jesse Riddle for District 3 County Council, and Jeremiah Morrill for District 1 County Council. And as far as countywide politics go, those are. I firmly believe that each and every one of those are the best qualified candidates for the job that are in the race currently.
And Lucy Brenton will be on your ballot as well for the Senate side.
Yep, she will.
And you'll see Lucy come to town hopefully when we open up the new LP headquarters. Final thoughts for me, real quick. We're running long. Happy birthday tomorrow to the lovely Sarah Potter Morrill. Big birthday celebration tomorrow, so that's going to be some fun. Thank you very much to Steve for joining us. This has been fun.
My pleasure.
Glad you're here again.
Anytime.
All right. This is very good. And next week we're going to have the final shows that we record in this studio. It's going to be there's going to be teary. I don't even know. There might be doing some crying.
Special decorations.
Yeah. I think we had to knock down the walls or something in here as we assume that the new studio will be ready.
We have to leave our mark.
Trouble. Yeah, we definitely should graffiti the hell out of these walls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, well, all of these sound panels are up with staples, and the signs are up with nails. I'm pretty sure we left enough marks in the room.
I'm going to pee on that wall, and it's going to say, Chase was here.
I even ripped up a quarter-round trim to put down the soundproofing in the corners.
So, next week we've got Chris Bowers coming on, and then we are going to do a special episode that's going to air Labor Day week, because the entire we cannot do a show without Dakota and I. That's a blood pact we made a long time ago, that every show has the two of us. When one of us out of town, we have to record one early, so you're going to get a canned show Labor Day week, and it's going to be Darren Jacobs, Jordan Bruno, the guy that lived out of his van for episode 15, I think, Danny Morrill, Dakota, and myself. And Darren has been growing ghost peppers all year long, and I don't know how it's going to work, but a number of the co-hosts are going to try ghost peppers on that show.
Should I put some in my gin and tonic?
I don't know how it's going to go.
Jared,
It's going to be ugly.
I've heard a rumor going around that since we're not using his room anymore, that we're tossing him out.
Yeah. Once we can replace him, you can have the big chair.
I heard that's what it is.
It's Jaron Chase show.
Very
episode
knowledgeable
77.
about all these subjects.
Yes, for sure.
You are, Chase. I appreciate it.
This has been fun, everybody. We will see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for listening to the Boss Hog of Liberty, which is part of the We Are Libertarians Network. I am Chris Spangle, and I am the founder of this network, and I invite you to listen to all of our shows, which you can find at WeAreLibertarians.com or by searching for these in your podcatcher. The flagship show is the We Are Libertarians podcast, where we apply libertarian principles to current events. The Brian Nichols Show is a conversation amongst Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, as they talk about what is happening in the news. And we have many other podcasts like The Chris Spangle Show, Upward, The Cost, Raw Audio Politics, Miranda's World, and Tad Talk. which is quite a ride. So check all of these out. Go to wearelibertarians.com and you can check out all of our great podcasts. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at wearelibertarians.com.